Lewis will have a party on Friday to celebrate his 25th birthday. He sends email invites to all his friends except Jason. Lewis is still angry with the way Jason made fun of his job when they were all together last time. Social exclusion. When we deliberately leave someone out, we're using one of the most powerful tools in our social toolbox. Lewis decided not to invite Jason to his birthday party while including everyone else. It's a simple act with complex roots. Over the next 10 minutes, we're going to break down Lewis's decision from 3 angles. What happened in his brain seconds to minutes before making that choice, how his hormones might have influenced his emotions in the days leading up to it. But first, let's look at why social exclusion exists at all from an evolutionary perspective. Lewis is actually playing the role of group protector here. Our ancestors survived by maintaining tight-knit cooperative groups. When Jason mocked Lewis's job in front of their friends, he violated an important social norm of respect. Kurzban and Leary's seminal research into the functions of social exclusion show that humans evolved specific mental mechanisms for excluding people who threaten group harmony. Lewis's ancient programming essentially says, this behaviour could damage our group, so I need to respond. By not sending that party invite, he's unconsciously using a social tool that helped human tribes stay functional for thousands of years. There's also something really personal at stake for Lewis, his reputation. When Jason publicly mocked his job, this wasn't just about hurt feelings. Wu and colleagues found that humans evolved sophisticated reputation management systems because social standing directly impacted survival opportunities. By excluding Jason, Lewis sends a clear message to everyone else. Disrespect me, and there are consequences. This reputation protection isn't calculated. It's an instinctive response that would have helped our ancestors maintain their position in social hierarchies where status meant access to resources. A third evolutionary function of Lewis's exclusion behaviour is enforcing reciprocity norms. Our ancestors evolved in environments where fair exchange was crucial for survival. When Jason mocked Lewis, he created a social imbalance, taking social benefits without showing appropriate respect in return. Hoffman, McCabe and Smith's landmark research on the behavioural foundations of reciprocity shows that humans possess mental algorithms designed to identify and punish those who violate social norms. By excluding Jason, Lewis is activating what these researchers call a cheater detection mechanism that evolved to maintain fair social exchanges. He's saying, if you don't meet the minimum standards for respectful interaction, you don't get to enjoy the benefits of my friendship. This enforcement of reciprocity helps maintain the cooperative social contracts that allowed human groups to function and thrive throughout our evolutionary history.
Building from our earlier evolutionary analysis of Lewis's behaviour, we now turn to hormonal mechanisms. First, cortisol. When Jason publicly mocked Lewis's job, this likely triggered a social evaluative threat response. Cortisol, the body's primary stress hormone, spikes in response to such threats and remains elevated for days, disrupting emotional regulation and heightening defensive vigilance. Terberg and colleagues propose a psychobiological mechanism that may explain human social aggression, wherein the steroid hormones cortisol and testosterone play a critical role. This analysis provided compelling evidence that high cortisol alone sensitizes individuals to threat, often leading to avoidance or defensive aggression. In Lewis's case, sustained cortisol dysregulation following Jason's slight would create a physiological state primed for exclusionary action, a barrier to mitigate social threat. Next, testosterone. Testosterone mobilizes status-protective retaliatory behaviors. Based on Lewis's willingness to engage in this behavior, and for the purpose of this analysis, we will be inferring that Lewis is an individual who functions with elevated baseline levels of testosterone. Ziloli and Bird reviewed extensive studies showing that men with elevated baseline testosterone display stronger reactive aggression and status restorative behavior when challenged. Specifically, acute testosterone spikes after status threats are linked to indirect competition strategies, such as social exclusion. Here, Jason's mockery functioned as a challenge to Lewis's standing among peers. Testosterone's influence would predispose Lewis to act, excluding Jason as a means to reclaim social dominance. Finally, oxytocin, often dubbed the love hormone, but its role is more nuanced. While it strengthens bonds within groups, it simultaneously facilitates exclusion of outsiders. The Drew and colleagues investigated the hypothesis that ethnocentrism is modulated by brain oxytocin. Through the performance of 5 experiments, the study showed manifestations of ethnocentric in-group favoritism, as well as out-group derogation linked with oxytocin levels. In Lewis's case, elevated oxytocin levels, heightened by supportive interactions with loyal friends, would sharpen the boundary between trusted allies and perceived threats. Jason, having breached group norms with his mockery, is thus viewed as an out-group member to Lewis. Taken together, this shows that these hormones do not act in isolation, but interact to shape social behavior. Thus, Lewis's decision is the outcome of hormonal shifts operating in the critical window of hours to days following status threat.
To explore further into why Lewis chose to exclude Jason, we must look at what was happening in his brain. There are numerous regions of the brain that were active while Lewis was debating to and inflicting aggression in retaliation. A study by Chester and colleagues used within subjects experimental design with fMRI to track brain activity as participants experienced social pain and then decided whether to retaliate. They found increased activity in the hippocampus, dorsomedial prefrontal cortex, anterior insular, and anterior cingulate cortex, regions involved in memory, social reasoning, and emotional processing. Many are part of the mentalizing network and are also linked to the experience of social pain, as described by the social pain overlap theory. This suggests participants were recalling previous hurt and angrily ruminating on it. Similarly, Lewis may have been reliving the humiliation inflicted by Jason and ruminating in response. This evidence is also supported by a previous study of Chester, a within subjects experimental design where fMRI was used to observe brain activity and behavior when provoked versus not. The study implicated these regions as neural substrates of angry rumination in response to provocation. When participants were given the opportunity to retaliate against their rejecter, it was associated with greater activity in the posterior insula, the region involved in sensory and affective processing, including moral disgust. It suggests participants were weighing a moral decision, similar to how Lewis may have debated whether to exclude Jason or act compassionately. Another key area activated was the anterior ventrolateral prefrontal cortex, which is associated with emotional regulation and cognitive inhibition. Previous research by Aaron in 2014 linked this region with regulated social pain. This implies participants were attempting to regulate their aggressive urges, like Lewis would have attempted to inhibit his anger and aggressive thoughts. But what interfered with this regulation? A significant finding was the positive association between retaliatory aggression and activity in the ventral striatum, a region central to reward processing and motivation. Wades-Rutger supported this finding in a study where participants could punish or avoid punishing an opponent in a competitive task. fMRI data showed greater ventral striatum and posterior insular activity when participants chose to punish their opponents. These findings suggest that retaliatory aggression may be a rewarding experience and act as a motivator. For Lewis, excluding Jason could serve as a way to alleviate the social pain and offer emotional relief.
When you look at Lewis leaving Jason off his party invite list, you're actually seeing something incredibly complex happening under the surface. In the seconds before Lewis finalised the guest list, his brain was hard at work. One part processing the emotional sting of being mocked, while another calculated all the social ripple effects of his decision. But it goes deeper than just brain activity. The stress hormones floating through Lewis's system that day, the testosterone responding to feeling disrespected, even the bonding chemicals that help us draw lines between us and them. They're all influencing his choice in ways he's not even aware of. And zooming out even further, these biological systems didn't appear by accident. They're the result of millions of years of human evolution, fine-tuned to help our ancestors navigate the tricky social waters of group living. So Lewis's seemingly simple decision to exclude Jason? It's actually millions of years of evolutionary programming, thousands of chemical reactions, and billions of neural connections, all coming together in a single moment. Pretty remarkable for something as everyday as a birthday party invitation, isn't it?